All right, what's everybody? We're live, Purple Friday Show, episode 200. This is episode 200. So
We're here.
I don't have any horns or confetti or anything, but we're here. We made it. So um, got myself a glass of whiskey. So we got that good one. Celebrate and all that. And the Ravens get their third straight win in a row. 3-game win streak.
Like it.
It wasn't a pretty game by any standards, but it. I'll start by saying this. I think that I said crads. I gotta edit that. I should call them the crads though. They don't deserve their Cardinals name. No, it started okay. Like the Cardinals scored first. They got a touchdown on their first drive. Ravens come back, first drive, scored their touchdown. Then after that, it was just, I mean, if you want to talk about sleep, you're talking about a game of fall asleep to wake up and still nothing happened. That was it. Like it didn't really start popping off again until I think probably the end of the third quarter, going into the fourth. I went to the grocery store. I went to the grocery store like after they were on halftime. I was like, let me go get some stuff because I'm like, I don't think anything's gonna happen. And then as I was coming back home, then stuff started kind of popping off there. But I think I'll start off by saying, look, the Ravens have, it was 4 of the last 5 weeks, the Ravens have been on the road. And they won, I think they've gone 4-1 in that stretch or something like that.
Yeah.
So, look, they showed the total mileage. They said even the London trip, especially the Arizona trip, like the most miles and stuff. Like they racked up a lot of like frequent flyer miles. A lot of frequent flyer miles during those last 5 weeks. I mean, you think about it. They come back from London. They flew to London. They're there for 8-9 days, I guess, because they got there early. Then they fly back to Baltimore to go play the Detroit Lions. Then early that week, they fly back out to the West Coast to go to Arizona. Another 3-hour time difference. So it's like they've been, you talking about the jet lag thing is real. Like watching that game, it felt like, especially in the first half, it felt like the Ravens were tired. They were asleep. Like if on defense, I know Roquan was wearing like that brace on his arm because his shoulder injury, but it definitely felt like on offense and defense, they were just real lethargic. They woke up in the second half. They did definitely wake up, but it definitely felt like they were struggling a little bit. And I think the fact that they still were able to score 31 points. And look, if Jadeveon Clowney picks up that fumble, it's 38. So, I mean, and then if Tucker makes the field goal, there's over 40. Yeah. In a game where they didn't play their best offense at all, and even the defense, like, they were giving up some runs, they were giving some passes. They didn't have almost a great game, I mean, especially towards the end, onside kicks and all that other stuff. But consider if they over the missed field goal and a missed scoop and score, they could have had another 40 points in this game, and a game they didn't necessarily play that well. So what I will take from this game is hopefully now that they've entered that realm of like what good teams do, right? You can still play not necessarily your best game, but you can still find a way to hit points on the board. I think that's the most important thing I took away from
the game. Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. It was definitely one of those games where, and it was also weird. 425. I think this is our first 425 game, so it's kind of like, how you mentally prepare when you get up to watch the games at 1 o'clock or whatever the case may be, and it's like it was just a different feeling. And we know the reputation of the Cardinals, and we weren't really expecting too much of a dogfight, but the Cardinals are one of those teams where they're just kind of like pesky, like they just won't go away, like one of those, and we kind of let them stick around for the majority of that game. And not that it felt like we were ever going to lose the game, but the fact that the fourth quarter turned out the way it did, I think they scored 17 points in the fourth. That was just like, that's not what you want to see. I mean, obviously, we're not going to play perfect every game, and we're coming off of some phenomenal weeks. But the fact that they allowed 17 points in the fourth quarter, that's kind of like almost like the ghost of past. Like we've seen this movie before. and we don't want to see that kind of stuff stack up, even though we did get the dub. It was a sloppy game on both sides of the field as far as, just the opening drives. We allowed a opening drive touchdown for the first time all year, which I didn't realize that was the case. So, when we saw that happen, it was kind of like, okay, it's going to be one of those wonky games where it's like, we're kind of playing down to the competition a little bit. So that was one thing. But, overall in the grand scheme, like you said, it's good to know that we don't have to play our perfect game against, every single week, and we can still find a way to come out with a dub. Like I said, it never felt like we were going to lose the game or in danger of losing the game, but it did look like it could have turned into one of those things where the game was close enough where maybe a coaching mistake or a penalty or something could have ruined it for us. But luckily, it didn't go that way. But yeah, I think the main takeaway that I saw, and I don't know what it was about this Arizona game, but we could not stop a nosebleed in that game. Like, as far as the run game, they were kind of just doing what they wanted on the ground. They did not have James Conner in there. And this guy was just running all over us at will. And I thought that, that didn't really bode well, because they kind of made that adjustment, especially in the second half when they realized we couldn't stop them. That was just kind of their go-to. And I don't know what was going on with the interior, but they were kind of running right through them. I was still pleased with, some of the pressure we generated and everything like that on defense, but at the same time, that run defense didn't look good. So, we're about to go play a Seattle team. We're going to do the preview later, but like, teams are going to start looking at the tape and thinking that they have something they kind of expose us with. But we'll see. And one other takeaway I take from that game, probably the most important thing that I've seen, Ronnie Stanley did not look good.
No.
Even on the touchdown play that we saw when Lamar kind of like kicked his leg up and kind of,
he stepped on him, didn't he? He got pushed into him.
I didn't realize till watching it back. I'm like, that's because Ronnie Stanley was damn near sitting in his lap. Like, he got pushed all the way back into the pocket. The rest of the pocket was pretty much clean for the most part, but Stanley's guy just pretty much manhandled him back to the pocket. And there was another play where the same thing happened, and that was on the Bateman play when Bateman saved the interception. He kind of made that excellent play to come back and catch the ball. That wasn't all on Lamar. That was because, once again, Stanley got powered back and almost like knocked into Lamar, and the pass was thrown off because of that. So I don't know if it's a thing where, he's still hampered by this injury, or if it's just like Corey said in the chat, I don't know if he's actually done. But that's something that we're gonna have to look into to see, like, what's really going on there. I think there was a couple of plays where they actually had him playing on the right side too. So I don't know if that has something to do with, those plays necessarily, or if something that was going on. I don't know if it was the field. The field didn't look great. He was, there was some slipping, but on the two plays specifically that I'm talking about where he got pushed back, there was no slipping involved. He was just getting outpowered in those instances and straight up abused. So that was kind of the main takeaway I took. 17 points in the fourth quarter, alarming a little bit, but not really. Could have just been one of those days. And Ronnie Stanley, I think that was the biggest takeaway. I think Lamar still did his thing. It would be nice to see another receiver kind of step up. We haven't really gotten that. We haven't really gotten it from Odell. Odell's, he drew 2 or 3 PIs. I can't remember how many. But, I don't like to see Lamar having to force him the ball. I do like that we're getting penalties out of it, but I don't want it to become a thing where I'm just forcing him the ball because I want to get him to score. I want it to make sense. I want him to be, I want it to work out based on the scheme. I don't want him to just have to force Odell and things like that, because we need to start getting our money's worth out of him. I mean, we're midway through the season now, and $18 million, 15 guaranteed, or however much was guaranteed. We haven't really cashed out on any of that right now, from what our eyes are telling us. But that's another thing to look at. But the major things, like I said, Ronnie Stanley in that fourth quarter defense of that game.
Like you and Corey And people on the radio have said that now that it appears that um, that's what Lamar seems to be doing. Like he seems to be finding Odell and just all right. I'm just gonna give him the jump ball. I'm just gonna give it to him. Meanwhile, there are other guys. I think they had mentioned on one of those plays where he threw to Odell where he got a PI. I think they said it was like either Nelson Aguilar or Bateman was like wide open. But he threw it to Odell because he's looking his way the entire time.
He also saw the DB in bad position where it's like
he thought Odell could get past.
Yeah, he knew he was going to get grabbed or something, so he threw it over there. But you did have wide open receivers.
Yeah, again, that's what comes with the money, right? When you see the dollar tag and Odell Beckham Jr. on the back of the jersey, even as a quarterback, I gotta get this guy the ball. If you got Devontae Adams and the Raiders, got to get him the ball, regardless of the situation. So it's like, but I will say since Bateman had his blow up a few weeks ago, whatever, he has started to play better. I would like to see him get some more opportunities out there for sure. Also, same thing with Zay. Like I think Zay gets too many of the underneath stuff. Like I want to see Zay get some more opportunities down the field, over the middle of the field. Like we saw in the Detroit game, he definitely has some opportunities, but it seems like it's not consistent enough, right? It feels like those plays are going to Odell instead of going to Zay. Again, look, even if he's not catching the ball, he is impacting the game. He is getting PIs, which we have said numerous times as fans. Why are the Ravens or wide receiver core the only ones not able to draw PIs? Everybody else seems to be able to do it, but we can't. But he is providing that aspect of the game. I do appreciate that. But I think again, this is an offense that's new for Lamar. It's new for the receivers. It's new for Monken. They're gonna keep trying to figure this things. Like as things work out, they're still gotta figure out things and still, pick things apart and finally fine tune this thing. Now, if we get to like week 13, week 14, and now they're just like, I mean, this is like an unstoppable machine. Then they've done their work. I don't think we've seen the final product of this offense yet. I don't think we've seen it. I will say, while the run defense overall didn't look great, Michael Pierce on 2 4th and 1s. I mean, saved the game. Yeah, 2 4th and 1s, single-handedly.
Phenomenal plays.
Single-handedly, Michael Pierce stopped. And the first one they did where they made the spot wrong, and you saw the ref was like, nah. Yeah, he moved it back half a yard. And everybody was, even the announcers, like, well, I've never seen that happen before. Yeah. Like, well, what happened was, it looked like the line judge was, we couldn't see him on screen, so they looked at him, and we were in the chat like, nah, he got the Ravens on a parlay or something. He's like, nah, they got to win by at least 7.
Two things real quick on the announcement. One was that obviously, okay, it looks crazy, it's funny to joke at, but the commentators were really trying to get this crowd, like the team, like us at home watching. He was really trying to get us in an uproar because clearly, New York is talking to them in the headset or whatever the case may be, and then that's probably what happened. Or they saw something, it was like, no, it really should be here. But one thing that they really did, because I didn't like this production of this game whatsoever. The broadcast to me was horrible. I didn't like some of the camera work. I didn't like the announcers. I just didn't like it. And the announcers, I don't know if it was Ross Tucker or if it was the other guy, but they mentioned Brandon Stevens kind of almost like in a derogatory way. Like they were just kind of bringing up how he's like the most targeted in DB.
I did remember that.
And it just came off real like, they're making it seem like he was some guy we picked up off the street and he's trash and we just got him out there filling in for somebody who's hurt or something. And I'm like, that's not the case at all. But, had they done their homework, they would know that he's having a phenomenal year. I mean, he's played very well in all 8 games, even in our losses. So, it was just, they would just say stuff and you can tell it was like, y'all really ain't.
You can tell those guys didn't do the production work. A lot of times what people don't know when they're calling these games, they go through, they have production meetings with the teams, with the players and stuff. They talk to them and stuff like that to get stories and stuff like that before the game. And they usually should do their research on certain players, and it clearly sounds like, oh, he's one of the most targeted defensive coordinator. That makes it sound like, oh, he's garbage because, quarterbacks, 21's over there, so I'm just going to throw it to his side. Meanwhile, if you've watched the games, I gotta look it up at some point. I'm pretty sure he has one of the better non-completion percentages. When throwing to him, he's been pretty good. He's been pretty good about either swatting the ball down or making sure the receiver can't catch it. He's been really good about that this year. It started off a little wonky the first couple games. He was doing this same old Steven stuff, but as the season has progressed, he has gotten a lot better.
He actually did a and I'll put it in the chat. They did an all 22 on Brandon Stevens. And over they basically focused on the last two weeks, but that's a good watch if you get a second to look at that. I'll share it with you a little bit later. But yeah, it's that kind of pissed me off a little bit watching the game live. I'm like, y'all don't even know, man. They just assigned you the game. You didn't really do too much homework. It was just bad all around for me.
And we were talking obviously about before the game, like if it was on turf. I thought it was on turf, but apparently it's whatever the hell they rolled out there, because as the Ravens were slipping on across that field all game. And so, but they made a state. Somebody said that it was an equipment manager or equipment person that works with another team. They were named anonymous, but they said it's not just the Ravens. There's a lot of players that do this. They don't like wearing the longer spikes on those kinds of fields because it slows them down. However, you're slipping everywhere.
Necessary,
and you're more likely to tear or twist or whatever something. And as they said, a lot of guys, whether it be from shoe endorsements or things like that. But they say a lot of times, even with the cleats, like they can take those bottom parts off and replace with longer cleats. So they were like, it's one of those things where if you're a head coach, it's kind of like, look, I understand that you guys don't want to play on these things, but I don't want y'all out for the year playing on this damn field. That's the reason why the Cardinals, I think, played a lot better, because they probably wear longer spikes on that field.
Yeah,
they're like, they have more traction, they have more grip, and as the Ravens are trying to tackle, trying to gain footing, they're slipping, falling over here, falling over there. So, look, I wish the NFL would create some kind of standard, right, for the field.
Yeah.
Whatever be grass or be turf. Like, there's got to be level grades to this, right? I feel like if you have a field that looks like that, you need to be fined. Yeah. Like, that's not good for the league. Where you're a billion.
It's a dome, right? It's a
dome. It's a dome.
Like, it's very, very weird.
And the stuff was coming up in clumps. Like you saw several Cardinal players when they tackle with their faces in the dirt. You saw all that stuff come. I'm like, divots in
the first drive when the Cardinals scored, like that end zone was just tore up after on that inside the 5, like it was already tore up after one drive of the game.
You can't play a professional football game on fields like that. Like baseball fields have better standards than that. Like like from across the league, you can see basketball court, NBA basketball courts, and Major League Baseball for sure. It's the same surface. How the texture, like how it looks, may look different, but it's the same floor. They may paint it a different way, whatever, but it's the same. Same thing with technique. Baseball. The designs may be different in the outfield, but it's the same type of grass for the most part. And the NFL's got to do a better job of regulating that, because that's just all. Like FedEx Field has always been notorious for having one of the most awful fields in football. I'm going to throw the Cardinals right in there, because that's the fact that they played a Super Bowl on that turf is. Well, didn't they say, was it last year when they played a Super Bowl last year in Arizona? Was it Arizona last year? They had to put in new turf for the Super Bowl. They couldn't play it. They weren't going to play on the I think the Chiefs and the Eagles were like, nah, we can't. We're not playing on that. Yeah. So they had to bring in new turf to play on, because the one they have in the Cardinals is atrocious.
I believe it. They need to come up with some kind of standard, though. I mean, even if it's just for safety reasons. I mean, just having a standardized field when these guys are traveling from city to city, it just kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it was awful. But anyway, look at the stats real quick for this game. Lamar was 18 for 27, 157, finished with a 94.2 QB rating. Only threw one touchdown. Obviously, that was the one off his back foot. That was still crazy. Like he throws the thing, and I don't even see Mark Andrews in the frame, and the ball is just doing like this. And then here comes 89. I was like, look, man,
Lamar, that was Lamar doing Lamar things.
I love Gus Edwards. Got 80 yards. Looked great in that game. He looked his healthiest I think he's been. These last two games, especially the Lions game and this one, like seemed like he's got some of that burst back. Yeah. Especially when we made the adjustment, because we weren't running at all at first. Yeah. I mean, he led, like Bateman was the next one with 18 yards rushing. Bateman was the next one, and Lamar was 5 carries for 17 yards. I will ask.
First looked phenomenal. That little end around.
Yeah,
He looked fast. He looked good. Like it looked good. The play.
I think that again, Greg Roman and them weren't exactly good at doing the reverses and end arounds and stuff. But maybe it's good every now and then when you can catch them off guard. It's all about when you do it, right?
Yeah,
you just don't throw it in there.
And nobody's expecting Bateman to do it. Like that's something
right. Everybody's like Duvernay, like
Duvernay or somebody. Yeah,
that's what we've been saying. That like you don't just use Duvernay for like you see Duvernay, he's never on the field, but then one time he's on, we know what you're doing.
Yeah,
like you got to switch it up. You got to have a couple players on there to throw people off. So I'm crediting the Monk in there. He's trying to utilize everyone there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that Lamar should be running more? That there were some opportunities, not just in this game, but in previous games where Lamar could have gone, where it ended up being incomplete or had to throw it, or you held the ball too long. That has been a thing. He's definitely in these situations where he's holding the ball a little too long and getting sacks because of it. Do you think Lamar needs to just like kind of get at like, look, I understand you want to prove you're a passer, but if it's there and it's taking more than 3-4 seconds, don't sit there, especially with the way Stanley's playing. Mm-hmm. You can't just be sitting there. You're gonna, if you see the lane, go take it.
Yeah. And I don't know if this has been like a consistent thing. I think, especially this last game, we kind of saw like, you're definitely holding on to the rock a really, really long. In certain game situations, it kind of like, for example, Detroit, like they were protecting him so well, like he was just kind of at liberty to hold the ball. In this game, it was kind of like, nobody was open. Like it was kind of getting him in more trouble than anything. So I don't necessarily think he needs, if we're talking about as a whole, I don't necessarily think he needs to run more. I think he does run when he absolutely needs to. But when you're holding the ball that long, like you said, if the receiver isn't open, you need to get up out of there. I mean, just don't force it. It might have something to do with the type of defense they were playing, but there were definitely some opportunities, like you said, where he definitely could have ran. So I don't know if he needs to run more as a whole, but in this game specifically, yes, I think he had plenty of opportunity to make some plays and things like that. I'm pretty sure that, it being the Cardinals, that probably played into him not really, taking as many runs. He probably had a lot more confidence that he could make a play throwing the ball. Being it up against Arizona versus another team where it might have been a little bit more pressing for him to make a play. But yeah, I don't think he needs to run more overall. I think he has been running when needed, over the course of the season. But in that game specifically, he was definitely holding the ball really, really long. And maybe that's just from being spoiled from the game before, where he just had all his protection and he's expecting the same, coming off of that win. So, yeah, I think he could have took a lot more opportunities in this one.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Oh, shot Geno Stone, man. 5th pick. Like,
I thought he was a 7th round. Was he a 5th?
I think he was a 7th round pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I was just watching him on Marlon's podcast on Punchline or whatever. I think this was called. And he said that he was like pick number 219 or something like that.
Yeah, 7th round pick 219. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
And if I leaving in it, and if I'm pretty sure at some point, especially if he gets another one in the Seahawks game, he's got to do like the Jordan thing where he hits the 3-point, just like.
Yeah, like what do you want? What do you want me to do?
I don't know, man.
What do you want me to do?
The ball.
It's crazy because he was talking about how like the last pick that he had, the one in Arizona, like he was completely in the wrong spot on the field. Like it was a botched play. Like half the secondary was in the wrong. It was just they didn't play.
Josh Dobbs just threw it.
Yeah,
right.
He just threw a terrible pass, and he just happened to, But when you're a playmaker, man, I mean, the ball kind of finds you. I mean, just ask Ed Reed. It's like, when you're doing your job and you get to the point where you're mastering film study, like the ball just kind of finds you.
And what's crazy, right? What's crazy is, I asked this: do you think that some teams, because of where Geno Stone was drafted, we're on into week 9 now. They should have felt like why are they aren't looking for where he is on the field at this point?
Because I think I think most teams when we go trap, because you gotta remember these guys only preparing for us for like a week. It's not like they saw us on the schedule and they started preparing. And our starter is technically, I guess, Marcus Williams, and
Yeah.
he's been hurt. So they're probably looking at Geno as a backup.
And they're still not taking him serious.
And they're still not taking him serious. I think now he's probably put on a little bit more notice because now he's no longer even tied for the lead in interceptions. He's like first in the league in interceptions, so he's the league leader. I think that'll change probably going forward, especially in Seattle and things like that. I think Pete Carroll, that's going to be something on his docket where they'll make note of it. But because of his success, he's definitely going to have to be accounted for. And when Marcus Williams comes back, which I heard he was he's back at practice today.
Okay.
That's going to be an interesting conversation too about how we go forward with that.
You can't. I mean, if you're the Ravens, you can't take Geno off the field.
That's what I'm saying.
You just can't.
We paying Marcus a lot of money. I mean, we're good at utilizing everybody, in different scenarios, but we'll see.
They'll figure it out. It's a good problem to have.
Great
you got two guys like that.
Yeah, we'll take it.
It's a good problem. Now, Corey did pose a good, interesting question. Whether we should, because at the end of the year, they're going to have some cap issues. And several, Madubuike, Geno Stone, Patrick Queen, and a couple other guys are going to be there. He said, should we stick with Geno and Stevens and get rid of Marcus Williams and Marlon, or just have to do a restructure? Look, I think with Marlon Humphrey, the way he's been playing, especially the last couple of years, like we said, he hasn't been All-Pro Marlon since 2019. I think 2019 was the last time, and then that's been due to injury and just how he's been playing. Mm-hmm. Look, I think at the end, if the Ravens came to Marlon, and now look, Marcus Williams just got his money, so I don't know how amicable he'd be taking a pay cut or maybe some more money up front. But I would think they were like, look, man, if you guys want to stay here, this is what we got to do. Okay, look, they're gonna tell Marcus, look, through no fault of his own, and you've been hurt. You've missed a lot of time for the last 2 years, and Marlon's the same way. It's like, look, man, you haven't really been that great, for the last few years. However, Brandon Stevens is going to be a little bit cheaper for us. Like, he's not going to command a whole bunch of money, but he's going to be a decent amount. Now, Geno, on the other hand, because, there's so many teams looking for playmaking free safeties out there, especially ones they don't have to go draft, they're like, oh, we'll take them off your hands. Mm-hmm. And, because it's a 7th round draft pick, he doesn't get a 5th-year option with the Ravens, so it's like the Ravens are now looking at him like, oh, man, what are we going to do here? Yeah. We like Madubuike, but we already signed Broderick Washington to that money. We still got Clowney as well. Clowney's playing phenomenal. You got to worry about keeping him next year as well. So there's a lot of decisions. I don't want to be in EDC situation right now. This is stressful, and I think he's kind of glad the trade deadline is over with. Yeah, so now he can kind of just focus on working out some of these deals he's going to. Because again, he made to get some of that money from Ronnie Stanley. Look, Ronnie, we got to take some of that money out, man. They're gonna do a lot of. He made the call Dick Cass, the former the money guy for the Ravens. Look, man, I want to need you to consult and come in here real quick because we gotta do some with some magic accounting over here to try to get some of these guys to stay in purple and black.
For real, they gotta figure something out. I mean, it'll be interesting. It's kind of like I feel like with Marcus Williams, I wouldn't say easier to get rid of, but the way Geno's playing, I mean, Marcus Williams is getting paid a lot of money right now. Yeah. So, with the way Geno's playing, I don't want to jump the gun. I mean, I'll give both of those guys some grace. I mean, like I said, it's still week 8. We don't really know fully what we got until, because we're going to go on a stretch at some point where all these games that we play is going to start mattering a little bit more, and then these guys still got to perform. With getting rid of Marlon, it'll kind of be like it'll be a little bit more complicated, I feel like, because we got to remember Brandon Stevens, definitely he's playing phenomenal, but at the same time, it's like we're playing in a different defense than what up, Travis?
What up?
we talking about your boy right now, Brandon Stevens. We gave him some high praise a little bit, obviously, as much deserved, playing like one of the best cornerbacks. And Corey in the chat posed a question about next season as far as if we needed to move on from Marcus Williams and possibly Marlon Humphrey, based on contracts and things like that. And I would be more nervous to move on from Marlon right now because obviously Brandon Stevens, his success is kind of based on a few different things. I mean, we got Kyle Hamilton is obviously helping out with that, and Marlon is him playing on the other side and sometimes in the nickel role. That's a system with that as well. And with this Mike McDonald defense, we're playing a lot of too high safety and stuff like that. So he's being supported a little bit differently in this defense, when in Wink's defense, we was playing a lot of man coverage, a lot of cover zero. We were doing a whole lot of that single safety. Like it was a different system. So, before we made decisions like that, we would need to know like would Brandon Stevens be flourishing in a different style of defense, or will we maintain the style of defense going to next season, things like that. And then I'll probably be a little more comfortable making those decisions. But like I said, it's only week 8, so we got like plenty of time. We're going to play. We have a lot more meaningful games in front of us that is kind of going to probably make a lot of those decisions for us. But yeah, Brandon Stevens is balling. Geno Stone is balling. So it's one of those things where if that's the decision they had to make, would I understand it? I would definitely understand it. Would I want to see those guys go? No, I wouldn't want to see those guys go. But I would understand it business wise with all these free agents that we still gotta sign and restructure. Sign on our team and also for the guys that are here, all the different restructuring and things we were gonna have to do. So it's gonna be tough. Like you said, Miles, I wouldn't want to be in EDC's shoes one bit, but I know he's glad that that trade deadline is over.
So yeah, I'm late to the party. Sorry guys, but
All good.
this is a crazy topic. This is where we got to for the review. That's crazy. I don't know if we can move on from Marlowe, man. I think the thing with Marlowe is we got to restructure that contract, even if it's like a pay cut, because the contract is losing its value due to health, and he has only played at that All-Pro level one time since receiving it. So I think a major restructure is in line for him. I wouldn't be mad at that. Take away the cap hit. But I think he brings more value than just on play field. I think he is a cornerstone piece of that defense. I think he's a big voice in the locker room. I think he is part of the glue that makes that defense what it is. So I think his value is more than just is on the field play. But I do think there needs to be a restructuring. Marcus Williams, there's just so much mystery behind this guy. Like when he's there, he's solid. Like he's made plays, but it's like, what is happening? What is happening with this guy's health? Like, what did my man? What's my man that got fired? Steve Saunders do to him last year.
What did he do?
Yeah,
he's got like a pin doll or something at the house, and he's just like,
he's like, free agency, $74 million. He's just messing up our players, man. But what can you do, man? You can't let the guy that's leading the league in interceptions just walk. And it's not that he's just leading the league in interceptions; he's making plays all over the field. So I mean, I think Marcus Williams is more likely to be the one you walk up, you let go of. But I think I can see a scenario where we keep both of them because I think there's a bigger question. Are we just talking about the defense right now?
Yeah, so that was a specific question posed in the chat based on just those two. Understanding though that we got bigger fish to fry because
there's a big fish on the other side of the ball that we need to be talking about.
Yeah,
we talked about like Ronnie Stanley, like that deal's gonna have to be looked at.
Yeah, we did bring up Ronnie Stanley.
That deal's gonna have to get looked at. Like
in that Arizona game, he did not look like
he did. He was the only one that couldn't plant his feet on that offensive line.
The rest of the line, they said for the most part did pretty well. It was just Ronnie Stanley kept getting.
He just kept getting pushed back in Lamar's lap all game.
4 games in a row. 4 games in a row. My finger's disappearing, but 4 games in a row.
Matt, look, they even said before you go on, Brandon Stevens is tied for 5th as a top 5 cornerback right now in the NFL for passes defended. So
there you go.
Yeah.
And as much crap as we've given this guy, well deserved, but we were sketch on him.
He was almost before Owe was. He was almost.
He
He was almost before Owe.
Yeah,
because he was always be there, just couldn't turn his head around. Now he's
never turned it around.
And we didn't mention that Owe sack that should have been 25 yards. It should have been a 25-yard
Oh
loss.
my goodness!
Like,
that was probably the worst.
That was awful.
That was probably his worst missed sack I have ever. I'm like,
that was his worst almost, I think.
I'm like, I would have been loved to have been like on that defense on that sideline for the Ravens. Just been like, watching like, what?
Yeah,
you regressed in 1 week.
You came back your first game, played well, got a sack. You had one of the most quarterback pressures in the game, and you come back next week and I mean, look, if you make that sack, I realize like everybody always like, oh man, Owe's back or not back. Owe has emerged, like he's here. Man. Everybody was like, oh, here we go again, same old Owe.
I wonder how much we practice like tackling with our pass rushers. Well, because there seems to be an issue like with bringing down the quarterback, being able to drive through.
I think guys are worried about landing on quarterbacks. Now you saw, I think in that Steelers game, they flagged either the cornerback or a linebacker for sacking. Not Kenny Pickett. Who are they playing? The Jaguars sacking Trevor Lawrence, and they called it. Oh, he threw his weight on him. Everybody's like, he landed. Like he had some weight on him, but most of the weight fell on the ground, and they still flagged him for it. So I think honestly, I think you see a lot of defensive players now are more worried when they, especially hitting the quarterback, are more worried about their positioning and how they're tackling him because they don't want to get that flag.
Right.
Yeah.
They just like I think in that situation, I'll try to give Owe a little bit, maybe some bail here for that. It's like if he knows if he's swinging him around and he tosses him down like that, they're throwing the flag because I'll call it unnecessary roughness. We've seen it happen. If he slams him to the ground like that, unnecessary roughness. Or if he goes goes down with him and slams him head first into the ground, passing quarterback.
He had Dobbs in the bear hug.
And you should have just like at that point just hold him. Just hold him.
At that point, just
hold him. You don't have to sack. You don't have to like. That's why I'm like the defensive players. Like, don't worry about putting him into the ground. Just hold him. Just hold him. They can't. They'll call it dead.
Yeah,
the quarterback's not going to move.
Patrick Queen kind of throw the quarterback. And I'm like, these guys are big. Like these quarterbacks aren't small. Like
no,
at all. Dobbs is not a small dude. You know, I mean, he's pretty tall, and he's strong. Like you can tell he's not like no weak QB. Like you can't take him. And they need to be approaching these sacks like every quarterback is Josh Allen.
Because they don't call it on him at all.
Yeah, they're underestimating it. They're underestimating the QBs they're trying to bring down.
All right, let's move on to let's see here. Oh, the NFL trade deadline. So obviously the Ravens didn't make any moves. The big ones obviously were Leonard Williams goes from the Giants to the Seahawks, who we'll be playing this week. He's actually one of the better defensive linemen against the run, so that should be very interesting to see how that works out. Montez Sweat goes from the Commanders to the Bears. Worse gets worse. Goes from the Commanders to the Bears. Dobbs gets traded after to the Vikings because obviously Kirk Cousins tears his Achilles and he's out for the year. Russell Douglas gets traded from the Packers to the Bills. That obviously I think because of I think that they have secondary issues in Buffalo. Surprise, surprise. They need help there. Chase Young gets traded from the Commanders to the 49ers to go alongside Nick Bosa. I saw some memes and stuff that the NFL IG is doing crazy. And they were like, Nick Bosa's going to sit down. It's like, I hope Nick Bosa doesn't call the police when he sees a black dude with dreads coming to the locker room. Like, no, that's Chase Young, man. It's a new team. Oh, all right. They can say, you're one of the good ones. You're one of the good ones, Chase.
Teammates in college?
Right. Yeah, they play they stay in the same squad, Ohio State. They play together. So we'll see how that works out. I will say, do you guys think that fixes the issues that they have on defense? Like, Chase Young has 5 sacks this year, I think. But does that fix it?
think it helps the D line. Just based on the last game I saw, it didn't look good at all. I mean, I think for the most part, I think what it'll kind of free up Nick Bosa a little bit.
Yeah.
And allow him to kind of get back to form. And I think that's why they made this move, honestly, because after him just inking that deal that he just signed, they were like, all right, it can't go down like this. It was like he needs some help. And honestly, Chase Young for a third round, I mean, that's a great price. I mean, we've seen some more ridiculous acts in this trade deadline yesterday that we'll probably get into, but will it make them better? I still think they have other issues. They got to get healthy on offense.
Debo's got to get back.
It definitely makes their defense a lot better. I still didn't like really much of what I saw from their secondary, so I don't know what they're going to do about that. But they got to get guys healthy and all. They got to get Debo back, and they need Christian McCaffrey to be 100% because Brock Purdy, it ain't it. From what we've seen without those guys, he's just kind of a different quarterback. Even though I still think he's solid, without those guys, they can't really do nothing. But I think the Chase Young move definitely helped. I'm actually kind of jealous that they spent the third because
could have gotten Chase Young.
I feel like if we knew that, then we should have got him. We should have got him. I mean, we looking good right now, but like, come on now, we can get better. It's week 8.
Yeah, you're trying to win. Yeah, and it's like I think with the situation with the outside linebacker with the Ravens and Tyus Bowser and his situation.
And if he's worth a third, what were we doing in the trade deadline? Like, what
right?
Third on anyone? Then what? Why
didn't we get Roquan for it? Was it a second?
We got a second. We gave Roquan.
Yeah.
So maybe
maybe they feel like they couldn't pay Chase Young. They were just like never going to be able to pay him.
That's possible. Maybe he would have been a rental. I don't. That's definitely a possibility, and we do have our own.
Our own stuff going.
In the previous segment. I mean, we have our own contracts to work out, so I'm sure that played a role. But I'm not mad at him because at the end of the day, I think I'm glad EDC wasn't no sucker in this trade deadline either, and overspent for anything. But the third round for Chase Young is like, damn, that sounded too easy. If you're in a Super Bowl or bust type situation, but I guess you still gotta be smart.
I also think they're missing DeMeco Ryans as that defense coordinator. That's been a big.
That's probably the biggest part, honestly.
That's a big issue. Sam Wilkes is not everybody. Sam Wilkes ain't cutting it over there right now. They got film on them now, and they're getting exposed. So they said it's a curse now because they said ever since George Kittle won that F Dallas shirt, they've been losing ever since.
I forgot about that.
Man,
since that game.
I think it's crazy though because like it just instantly went downhill. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about like Steve Wilkes, like he was brought in there to improve the secondary, and he just says screw the pass rush.
Yeah, they don't blitz. They don't blitz. They don't do nothing. They send forward, they're not getting there. Like there's no stunts, no nothing. Like it's
vanilla.
Yeah.
But I think it's the thing that's baffling to me as the Redskins. I don't know what their logic, what their direction, or what anything that's going down there in Washington. But I've never seen 2 pass rushers that are on pace for 10 plus sacks in a year both get traded at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
I mean, they both have 5 plus sacks, and they're on pace to get traded. Well, they got traded. I'm sorry. They got traded. And I'm surprised they didn't get first because, I mean, Montez Sweat, he's one of the league leaders.
They said he's more value. As far as production, Montez Sweat's been better than Chase Young had.
Yeah. So it's baffling. Like, what are y'all doing? I mean, it sounds like Ron Rivera is going to be out the end of the year just because
they're tanking now at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a fire sale.
Yeah, they're getting rid of it. So they already paid Jonathan Allen, so I guess they're like, we can't pay anybody else.
Right.
Now I will say the rumors, I don't know how true it is. Maybe it'll come out this week or something. The rumor was that the Ravens were trying to get Josh Jacobs, and the Raiders wanted the second round pick for him. I would have given that second round pick for Josh Jacobs.
I would not have.
I would have done it. I'm like, they're going to be looking at a running back in the second round anyway. I'm like, you might as well go get Josh Jacobs. Like,
I think it's too high.
Is it too high? Like,
I think it's too high. I would have gave him at the most. It's still at the end of the day, like we can't act like the conversation wasn't had. The NFL aren't even looking at running backs as valuable as far as paying them money. So I think the draft picks are worth more than that. So a second round to me for a running back when, do we need a third running back? Kind of, yeah. It would bode well for us moving forward. But can we get by? I think we could have gotten by. One point is, that I would agree is like it's not like we draft that well in the second round. I mean, history shows we haven't really drafted that well in the second round. I think our
Third
best
round's our money right there, right?
like Torrey Smith or something like that. I don't know,
Yeah.
but outside of that, it's just too high of a price for Josh Jacobs. I mean, Josh Jacobs seemed like he's coming along now, but he didn't have the best first 8 games. And granted, he was in a not so good situation, and he might have actually done pretty well in our offense the way our system is run. But I don't know. I just think a second round would have been, I think we can probably do more damage in the draft with a second rounder, hopefully, this offseason. But I think anything under a third, or even a third at the highest, I think I would have gave up for
him. Yeah, so third or fourth. I can't go above that for a running back. Even Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, whoever. I think the only way I would have compromised, because he's not healthy. I was going to say Saquon because he's a hybrid, but he's not healthy enough. So, yeah, I don't think I would go over a third for a running back. It would have been nice if we pulled that trade, though. It would have been nice. I think he's the perfect fit for the system. But the value isn't there. And, like you said, Trey, like you can get a Josh Jacobs in the third round next year. Like there are plenty of good running backs. There are a dime a dozen. And I think I think there are a lot of running backs that can play well with Lamar. That's all I'm going to say. I think Lamar can make running backs better. I think the scheme can make running backs better. I mean, he takes a lot of pressure off of them because he's a threat. So I think I haven't seen a running back not be more successful than we expected with Lamar. Even the guys we brought in off the street, they were productive. And I haven't seen them go be productive elsewhere. The majority of them are out the league. So I honestly just think, we can't put a lot of resources into that position.
Now, Corey did mention here, he's like, the Jets may cut Dalvin Cook soon. If that presents itself, look, I still think the Ravens do need a third. They need somebody. They need a third running back. They can't just give the ball to Gus and then hope he just holds up for the next 9 weeks and doesn't fall apart. Like they still need to give him the ball. And then when Keaton Mitchell eventually gets back, so I think still need some help there. So I think there will be a situation that presents itself for the Ravens, but as they say, like it's gonna be the waiver wire thing. So maybe the luck of the draw that no one else wants Dalvin Cook and the Ravens get him. So I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. Moving on to that, since we talked about the Raiders real quick. Last night, during trick or treating with his kids, the Raiders notified Josh McDaniels that he's been fired as the head coach, and the GM was also fired as well. You don't see often the same night that both the GM and head coach are fired. You don't see that often. Maybe a week or two between firing or something like that, but never the same day. That was a lot. I think the Devontae Adams situation, especially looking at him on the sideline this past what was that, Sunday night? Was that Sunday night game or Monday night game? Threw his helmet down in disgust.
Sunday night, yeah.
And you could clearly tell, like, Devontae Adams has had it. Like, he's just like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. He's like,
him or me.
Yeah, it basically, it's like, I can't do this anymore. I just can't. I can't do this anymore. So they get rid of Josh McDaniels out with his. So is this technically his second one? I know he originally got the Colts job, but then he didn't take it, or he reneged on it or something like that.
I think he got fired from somewhere, right?
I thought he got fired from somewhere.
Broncos.
Broncos. Okay. So
yeah.
This is his second opportunity head coaching. Meanwhile, I will also put this out there. it's a shame that Josh McDaniels has now had 2 opportunities to be a head coach, and Brian Flores has had 0.
And he'll probably get another.
There's like you can clearly the guy can't be a head coach. He's just not good. Like he's not good. How do you have Devontae Adams there? And I mean, he's clearly voicing like I'm being underutilized here. They're not getting me the football. I was here because David Carr, and you trade away the guy I came here for. All right. And you give me Jimmy Garoppolo, who's not in Mike Shanahan's offense, and you see how bad he is. I mean, Kyle Shanahan. He's in Kyle Shanahan's, not in Kyle Shanahan's offense. He's like, yeah, he's bad. Jimmy Garoppolo is not good. And now you're stuck. Now they got this guy, O'Connell, or whatever his name is. I don't know who this quarterback is. Now he's the one throwing the football. Forget Vegas. I'm like, Vegas is great and everything, casinos and all the shows and all that stuff. But if I got to get ready for work every day as a football player, as Devontae Adams, going into that locker room, and I'm looking at this guy O'Connell as my quarterback now, I'm just like, I don't know where the Raiders go from here. I really don't. I think they put a new rule out now, right? That they have to wait until at least after the conference championships to talk to coaches now. I saw something that they can't immediately talk to people like during the playoffs. They have to wait till at least after the conference championships now to talk to coaches for head coaching positions. For tampering and all that good stuff. I don't know what they do from here. Mark Davis and that haircut is not trustworthy. So I mean, I don't. At least Al, if you're a grown man getting that haircut every week or every other week, something ain't right. Like Al Davis, as much as before he passed away, he started to look. He looked like the Crypt Keeper after a while. Like he looked pretty bad. Al Davis knew football. Al Davis at least knew what we needed to see on the field. This is one of those nepotism things, right? Yeah, you're the son of the owner, but you clearly don't know football as good as your dad. You clearly don't. At least your dad had an image and an idea what a team should look like, attitude-wise on the field and stuff, and got players to fit that mold. Mark Davis, I feel like, is just throwing darts at places, and I don't think he knows what he's doing at all as an owner. So I don't know where they go from here. I don't know who would want this job. Like, what quarterback's going to be available for them in the offseason? Who are you going to go get? Who's going to be like even the quarterback class coming out of college this year? Caleb Williams is obviously going to be a top 5 pick, and now Penix out of Washington is probably going to go in the first round now too, the way he's been playing. So I'm like, but outside of that, you could do it. Was it Drake May out of UNC? That's going to be your quarterback for the Raiders. Like, who's out there? So I'm like, if I'm a person looking for a head coaching job, the Raiders is not the one I want at this point.
Yeah,
I don't want that job.
Yeah, it's a sticky situation, man. I mean, them getting fired together. I mean, that's very telling, like you said. I can't say that I didn't see it coming, based on what we've seen as far as the product that they put out there on the field, and not only just losing, but the way they're losing. I mean, I got Devontae Adams on my fantasy team, and I've seen a few games already where they have not been going at their best playmakers on the field. And I just thought that was just mind-blowing to me, how, the lack of getting Devontae Adams the ball and things like how often that was occurring. And I did watch they had a full press conference, and the only reason I seen it because it was like a national one. Like it came on, I think NFL Network or something. And I got an alert for it, and I watched it, and it was, what's his name? Champ Kelly and what's the other guy's name? Pierce, I believe his name, Antonio Pierce, and they pretty much who's going to be the interim head coach right now, and so he was the linebackers coach on that staff, Antonio Pierce, and it sounds like they're just trying to change the culture over there now. Like he's in the mindset of it's pretty much the presser was real like rah like. We're still trying to win games. We're trying to change. We want guys happy to be here. We want smiles on their faces. We want them to have fun in these games. And most importantly, we want to get our playmakers the ball. And that's something that we haven't been doing. So he was kind of telling it how it is. I mean, it's just one of those they're going to have to show us and we're going to have to see. Because, I mean, you can talk a big game, but If your team ain't good, then they're not good. But at the same time, the Raiders is a team where, this offseason, if you look at their roster on paper, it looked like they was going to be all right.
Mhm.
Like, it looked like they was going to be decent.
But they had Chandler Jones have a mental breakdown.
Yeah, like it's
like
it's
a lot
been,
of unforeseen things happen. Yeah,
it's been everything but. Like, I just find it like mind-boggling how bad they've been. Like, Marcus Peters just had a pick 6 in this game.
in the game, man.
You got
7
Max
yards.
Crosby, who plays like a
Balling.
crazy man every week.
Yep.
And then you got Devontae Adams, is really nothing to be said. You already know what the deal is with him. And you got Jacoby Myers. Like, Jacoby Myers, he's had huge games. I've seen Jacoby Myers get like 20 targets in a game before and 10, 12 catches. And the game I saw Monday night, he barely got targeted. It was just interesting. Like, I think the head coach Josh McDaniel getting fired is one thing, but their whole offensive makeup just has to change because the play calling that I seen from that game was horrible.
Yeah.
So yeah, I seen it coming. Where do they go from here? Who knows what the future holds? But I'm going to be tuned into these next few games just to see how they respond under a different leadership, just to see how that goes. So we'll see. At the end of the day, if you want to lose the game by getting the ball to your playmakers and it just not being good enough, don't lose the game because you're underutilizing the guys that you have.
Yeah, Raiders suck. They just suck. That's they've sucked for a while. They suck now.
Organization.
They're unhappy. The
Just
organization's
bad.
incompetent. Mark Davis haircut. Miles said it all. I mean, anybody that comes in looking like the kid from Problem Child with that cut or the Dennis the Menace, whatever.
Yeah.
Like they put the bowl on your head and just start going around. But no, honestly, this is a lot of incompetency. Like they haven't been able to get that organization right for a while. It's like they don't make smart decisions. They don't make smart draft choices. They have no strategy. They have no culture. There's nothing about the Raiders that screams or that even gives a clue that they know what they're doing or that they have some sort of direction. It's like, let's go after names. Let's go after people who have some type of publicity around them and bring them in and watch them burn and crash. That's what they do. That's what they do. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no strategy. There's nothing. So ideally, like I don't see this organization going anywhere. Devontae Adams, he's going to be out of there coming off season. They don't have a quarterback. I've heard Aiden McConnell is pretty good. He was good in the preseason, but that's the preseason. But I've heard he has a lot of potential. We'll see. But I just don't see the Raiders organization being relevant. And that sucks because they are in a great market to be able to take that step back to relevancy. They're relevant for the wrong reasons right now. But I don't know what their next move is going to be. I mean, the coaching hire, the GM hires are crucial. I mean, maybe they come. Never mind. I'm not going to speak it into existence. But maybe they come over to the East Coast and get a competent coach, or even some competent staff members to come get that team right.
I will mention this before we move on. I think the NFL has a vested interest in making the Vegas Raiders a thing. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, obviously the WNBA Las Vegas Aces have won their back-to-back titles there in WNBA, and then the Vegas Golden Knights won the Stanley Cup last year. So they got champions there. I think that we've seen a trend, right? When teams move to Vegas, I don't know if it's fixing or the script, whatever they be, but it seems like when teams move to Vegas, they at least win a world title. Raiders aren't nowhere near that right now. And like you said, Travis, I think they're in a good market. They're in a great market. The NFL wants this. The NFL wants this to be a thing. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to force Mark Davis's hand. Like, look, man, look, I ain't telling you what to do, but it would be in your best interest to sell this team. Sell, just sell. Yeah. Like, we don't want you here anymore. You need to go. We need somebody else because we want this Vegas thing to be big, and you're not helping. You're not helping. So let's move on to other week 8 news before we touch on the Ravens real quick. Of course, Cowboys, huge win. Who they blow out? Who is the team they beat? The Rams, 43-20. Defense, offense, everybody, special teams, everybody had a hand in this game. Of course, Cowboy fans went crazy. They beat the 3-5, the 3-5 Rams, 3-4, whatever they are. Mediocre team. They play the Eagles this week. Big game. 4:00 game. Look, I don't think the Cowboys at home against a mediocre team. We've seen this story before.
Yeah.
We've seen it. Like everybody was like, Cowboys fans obviously were like, up and throwing through the roof and like, we're back, we're finally here. We're going to the 49ers have lost 3 straight games. We're in the front now. We're in the front, like, I got to play the Eagles, man.
Yeah.
You haven't get past the Eagles in 2 years.
Almost on the way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and then y'all got to go play in Philly on top of that. Like, it's not like y'all playing in Dallas. Like, y'all playing in Philly. So I'm like,
keep that same energy. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see if they're able to.
What was the other big win? Vikings still win the game against the Packers, even though Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. They win 24-10. They win there. Dolphins beat up on the Patriots as we said they would because they're playing in Miami. Seahawks barely beat the Browns. There was a back and forth game. I was watching on my phone. I was watching like the game cast and stuff on my phone. That was back and forth.
That defense gonna keep them in every game.
The Steelers, did they win that? They won that. No, they lost that game, 20-10.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Kenny Pickett went down.
Kenny Pickett with a rib injury. Now he's trying to play this Thursday night.
Yeah.
He tried to get back into the game. Couldn't throw.
Mm-mm.
Like, he tried to throw and he was having excruciating pain in that rib. Look, I think we have to consider, is Kenny Pickett, like, is he injury prone at this point? Like, I know he had a concussion and stuff last year, and he was out for 2+ games, but he's not as durable as Ben was. Like, Big Ben would get hit and bounce right back up. Like, it was hard to knock Big Ben out. It was really hard to knock Big Kenny Pickett now. Kenny Pickett appears like,
I think I reserve like the injury prone now to these guys who just be getting hurt off nothing. Like Kenny Pickett been getting tore up. Like he been getting beat up, and he's not Big Ben as far as that. Big Ben's probably the only person that I know that can take a beating like that and stay in the game. But Kenny Pickett, he's been getting like mollywopped on the football field. So like most of his injuries, we see exactly what happened. It's like, all right, like couldn't avoid that. Offensive line was terrible, did him dirty. Now he's hurt. But I don't know if he's injury prone. I mean, for the most part, he fights back from those injuries. But and who do you got back? Oh yeah, Mitch Trubisky was the backup, right?
Yeah, Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, so.
You heard the crowd start booing. Oh God.
Yeah,
he wasn't too bad though.
Matt Canada and Mitch Trubisky.
He's serviceable. I mean, there's a lot of he can
run. He's
outplay a lot of these.
Mobile.
Couple of these starting QB. I'm sure Minnesota wish they had Mitch Trubisky right now.
Yeah, they'll take him. Now the Bengals did beat the 49ers. Look, the Bengals back. Joe Burrow played probably one of his best. 3 touchdowns. Jamar Chase had 10 catches, 100 yards and touchdowns. Like, are we going to be getting them at the right? Like, we're going to be playing them soon at the right time. Like, it's.
That's why they went out and got Chase Young, because Burrow was just back there teeing off.
He was. They couldn't touch him.
But he also gets rid of that ball fast. Like,
he does. He's one of the shortest. Like they get the ball out. So, but they've been playing well the last few weeks.
They haven't played our defense, but they are something to be reckoned with.
I think the Ravens defense right now is just on another level. And I think Lamar plays always like when he's playing, Lamar plays them well. Like Lamar plays the Bengals pretty well. So we'll see how that goes. Is that black? Are they wearing black jerseys that Thursday night game?
Yes.
Are they wearing black jerseys?
Okay. They asked all the fans to wear black, so yeah, I think they're wearing all black. Yeah.
Okay. We haven't seen. It's been a while since seen all black jerseys. Man.
I haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, it's been a minute. So, Let's go into the Ravens Seahawks, preview. Before we got So look, the Seahawks eke out a win against the Browns, 20-10. Wasn't their greatest game. They get the W though. Now Geno hasn't been playing his best football this year. But I will say, look, I think the Ravens, they're 5-point favorites in this game, even at home. They have them at 5 points, like they give it. I'm like, that's a lot. I feel like it's a lot. I'm like, the Seahawks are still 5-2. Like they're still leading. I think they're the division leaders right now in the NFC West. Like they're still in the first place team, but the Ravens have a 5-point advantage against this team. Now they're flying from the West Coast to the East Coast, but I think the mindset for the Ravens is we don't have to go anywhere for the next 3 weeks. We're going to get on a plane anywhere. We can just drive to the game. We can go home. We can plan parties at the house and film study and hang out and do all this other stuff at home. We don't have to. I can unpack my suitcase for a little bit, right? Like the mindset is you get a little more comfortable while you're at home. I don't have the same expectations. Like even though they're the first place team, it doesn't feel like the against the Lions. It doesn't feel like the way it was against the Lions, right? If this was the Seahawks team from last season, yeah, like that Seahawks team last season they got hot at the right time. They're playing phenomenal football. Geno Stone was playing out of his mind. Yeah. But the Seahawks team has been up and down all year. Like even in the wins that they've had, they haven't won convincingly. Like I think it's a doable game for the Ravens. I think this is more, again, even with the 2 losses, right? Somebody made a good point. The Ravens have yet to be beaten by somebody. The 2 losses have been because they just beat themselves.
Yeah.
That's the reason why they've lost the game. It's not because the other team was just better than them. It's because the Ravens either not catching the football or too many penalties and missing plays, like stuff like that. That's been the reason why they've lost the games that they've lost. It's not because, that team was just better than that day. They've been better on the field than everybody, but the fumbles, the interceptions, the penalties and stuff have really hurt them in these losses. And what we've seen the last couple of weeks, though, they've cleaned a lot of that up. Now, they didn't have a lost fumble last week against the Cardinals. Gus had one called back. I think Gus had one call that what they thought was a fumble, called that back. And then Lamar, they called an incomplete pass instead of a fumble. Yeah. So luckily they didn't have a recorded turnover in that game. So hopefully they've turned the corner there. What do you guys think? Look, the 5-point, not underdog, but 5-point favorites in this game at home, 1 o'clock. If this is like a 4 o'clock game, I could see them, give them a little bit more time to acclimate, time difference and stuff.
Yeah, 5 points. 5 points seems like
a lot, right?
Pretty strong. I mean, yeah. I don't really like going into games where the spread is over 3 points for the most part. I mean, at home, like you said, the Seahawks are playing really, really well. I'm kind of looking at this game, I'm trying to compare it to what I'm looking at. I kind of, like you said, not like the Detroit game. I'm not kind of sizing them up that way. As far as what Detroit had, where they were at in the season when we played them. But I think the most concerning piece for me would definitely be Geno throwing that ball downfield, because with Seattle and the way Geno is playing right now, they're going to throw the ball downfield no matter how the game's going. Tyler Lockett is one of those receivers that for some reason he's always freaking open. It doesn't matter what team they play. The guy just runs loose. So, hopefully in the defenses that we've been playing, like, those zone decent, we can kind of limit that and hopefully still keep those guys underneath. Like, guys really haven't been throwing the ball over top as much against us. And when it hasn't really been that much successful this year for the most part. But that is a concern going into this game against Seattle, because that's one of the things that they do well. But like you said, I'm not as concerned this week. I think it's an opportunity to once again kind of see what we got. I think our secondary has been playing well, and I think that will continue, even though they have those threats over there on offense with Tyler Lockett and Jigba and all of those guys. I don't know. I think we need to run the ball better. I think if we start off this game with a more balanced offense, I think the game obviously got away from us last week, and we had to end up adjusting back to it. And you kind of see how that worked out for us closing out the game. We kind of got to be a lot more balanced this week against the Seattle team, so they can kind of respect us in both areas, the pass and the run. I mean, obviously they're always going to respect Lamar with the season he's having and always being a threat to do either or. But I think if we can establish Gus early on, the better we'll be for this game, because I don't want it to be a shootout either. So we definitely got to play a lot better than we played in Arizona, because that fourth quarter was just unacceptable. 17 points in the fourth quarter, giving up. You can't do that against everybody. And that was Josh Dobbs last week. We're not playing Josh Dobbs this week. So coming off that game, Geno Smith is going to look incredible. So hopefully we can get some hats on him and generate some similar pressure that we've been getting over the course of the last few games, and kind of just keep him in the pocket and contain him and just get some pressures and some hits on him. I feel like we're going to tighten up the run game. I don't really see us getting ran over like we did, but Walker is a threat, because that guy is just a playmaker, whether he's catching the ball or running the ball. But I think we can pretty much do what we can against him. I have kind of faith in our edge rushers to kind of contain and not get get away from us too much. But other than that, I think we'll have a solid outing. I'm not too worried yet, but yeah, that -5 makes me a little bit nervous. I have to admit.
Yeah. When I look at the Seahawks, they're good, not great, at all areas of the game, and I think that's what has them at the record they're at. I don't think they've beat a lot of tough teams. Um, they're offensively, they're good throwing the ball, not great. I mean, they go for yards, but Geno 9 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. They're okay running the ball, not great. Um, they're good at keeping Geno clean. I think he's like the fifth or fourth least sack quarterback in the league this year. Defensively, they're cool. They give about 19 points a game. They give up a lot of yards in the air. I think it's 240, 250 in the air, about 90 on the ground. So there's opportunity for us to attack in the passing game, but I lean more towards what Trey was saying, balance, because teams that defend the run well, we can actually run on them, because we do have a strong running game when we actually commit to it. I think balance is going to be the key. Play action. We have to keep these teams off their toes, because the thing is, when we get too pass happy, we give teams an opportunity to tee off on our offensive line and get to Lamar, specifically tee off on Stanley. I mean, All-Pro Stanley's not coming in that door, so we can't just sit back there and get pass happy. So balance is the key. I think we got to keep them on their toes, mix in the run game in different ways, not just, turn around, hand it off to Gus, or turn around and hand it off to Justice Hill. Mixing some more runs with Zay. I would even be mad at something that Arizona did that I was like, man, it'd be crazy to see what Zay can do there. But a quick toss to Zay, straight out the backfield. Let him get a head start and make a play. Just kind of mix it up for teams. I would love to see that type of balance. Defensively, we got to try to get to Geno. I mean, like I said, he's been sacked 14 times this season, which, is one of the best rates. We got to get to him. We got to put pressure on him, because even though he's been clean for the most part, I mean, my man's been throwing picks, so there's opportunity to create turnovers. But I think we got to get in his face, and then of course just stop the run. Kenneth Walker is a pretty solid back. We got to make sure we stuff him at the line. So I think that's something we can do. I think when we get to Geno, we have to plant him into the ground. We can't just let him sit back there and do his thing. We have to plant him to the ground. So I think that's the key for us. I think we have the weapons, we have the defense. We just have to come in there with the right game plan and execute.
Yes, I mean, like you guys said, like they're gonna have, while Jackson Smith and Jigba, was dealing with some injuries beginning of the season. He's starting to come on. I mean, he's still a rookie, but you still got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. The question is going to be, especially for this Ravens secondary, and we've talked about this before. Do you put Marlon in the slot, and let Brandon Stevens handle DK on the outside at that point? Because you already know. I think DK. If Marlon's on DK, I think he's going to overpower him. Like he's going to overpower Marlon. Like it's Marlon. While he's not a small cornerback, can tend to find himself, especially if he's on guarding the outside, get bullied. We've seen it plenty of times where he gets bullied on the outside a lot. Now, look, I don't think they move around DK like that, like they would do, Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson or something like that. Now he's getting I think he's got 400 yards receiving this year. Kenneth Walker's got 500 yards rushing. He's averaging 4.4 yards a carry. DK is averaging 15 yards a catch right now. They have some playmakers on offense. Noah Fant's a pretty decent tight end. He's not great. He's not phenomenal, but he's decent. But Geno right now, 67% completion percentage. He's got 1,600 yards passing. He's averaging about 7.3 yards a throw and about 235 yards a game. He's got 9 touchdowns and a 91. He's a pretty decent quarterback. It could provide some issues. It could. Now, again, I think Seattle still has one of the best home field advantages of any football team in America. As that still stands, going to Seattle and playing a football game is really tough. Which I will say, the Ravens, it's not. Lamar has played against Pete Carroll, John Harbaugh. They did this back in 2019 when we obviously remember the infamous Lamar. I want to go. Let's go for it. And they get the 4th down, get the touchdown, and end up blowing the game out. Marcus Peters gets a pick 6 in his first game as a Raven there. So at least Lamar and John Harbaugh are definitely familiar with this team and this side of the ball. They're bringing back, Bobby Wagner after his stint in L.A., so he's going to be there. They do have that cornerback, Devin Witherspoon, who's really good out of Syracuse. He's been playing really good football this year. He's actually one of the top-ranked cornerbacks. So it could, again, yeah, I have to agree with you. That 5-point spread is, I'm I feel like this game is going to be a lot closer than that. I don't think it's going to be the Lions game by I think this is going to be a real test for the Ravens for sure. Now I'm looking at let me look at the weather real quick for that game. The weather over here has been a little chilly. Sunday right now it says 69 degrees, partly cloudy, so good weather for football. There, so it's not going to be freezing or anything. So again, it's a 1:00 game. But yeah, I think that this is. I think what we heard from. I don't know if you guys watched the halftime from John Harbaugh when I think they interviewed him, and he said, "Oh, we got to run the football more." And it was, I think we had said, why does I think Gus Edwards had 9 carries or 8 carries or something. It was single digits through the entire first half. And I was like, what the hell was going on? And then they finally started running the football in the second half, and then they started dominating the football game. And he had 80 yards. Could have had probably 100 if they could give him the football more. Right. They definitely, I think, and then Harbaugh tried to come out and say, well, that's how the game was called, right? I'm like, well, it's your job as a head coach to say, hey, let's get the passing game they were definitely in that Cards game forcing stuff down the field. They were trying to force things, and it just wasn't there. It wasn't. The defense for the Cardinals did a really good job in that secondary of not giving a lot of lanes for Lamar to throw the football into. And you count on the fact Ronnie Stanley was getting thrown into the back, closing the pocket up all the time, that it was causing issues for Lamar. So I think that, again, I would like to see what we saw in the Detroit game, kind of the Ravens not deferring, letting that offense get on the field first. I think it's more important for that offense to get into rhythm in this game than it is for the defense. I think it's important to give the offense as many possessions as possible to continue to go forward. Because as me and Trey said, we talked about for the Cardinals review, that they obviously had some hiccups in this game where we talked about them force feeding Odell, and it seems like 9 times out of 10 either it's a pass interference or Odell can't catch the football, but he doesn't have a touchdown yet. So we're like, it feels like that. I don't know if Monken is doing it or if Lamar is doing it, but it feels like they kind of have to continue to get this offense in sync and find out what's working a lot quicker than the defense does. The defense knows what it's doing, right? I think defense is at this point, regardless of who the quarterback is and who they know what they got to do. They know that Roquan's got those boys locked in. I think Mike McDonald does a really good job during the week of getting those guys ready. I think they're ready every week to do what they need to do. Like you guys said, what is concerning is Kenneth Walker coming in, who's a better running back than Dan Ricardo. if he's when they was able to run on that Ravens line like that, and I said again, I'm hoping it was the fact that they were just jet lagged. They were just tired, and they just like it felt like at a certain point at the end of the game they just gave up. They were like, okay, it's whatever, we're done. I think that was the hope for me, that they just figured like let's just end this thing and let's just get up out of here. I think it got too close for comfort than they expected it to, but I just hope that gets adjusted. I just hope that they don't continue to defer thing and they allow the Ravens offense to get more in sync, because they're going to need it in this game.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I think the video froze a little bit.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I think you froze.
You froze.
I froze.
Yeah.
I can stay. I can still hear you guys. So all right. I guess before we get out of here, then, what do you guys think about what's the score? What do you guys think for the score for this game?
Home game, nice weather. We on the 30 streak right now. I think I'm gonna keep it going with the 30 streak. I just think there's no reason for us to, be back home and not put up 30 points. We just came all the way from the West Coast and did it. So I'm gonna go with a Ravens win. I'm gonna go 32. I'm gonna go 32-20. 32-20.
I'm gonna match your 30 piece with a 30 piece. I say 30-15. I think the defense tries to hold it down. I think Seattle just gets a touchdown, 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion. I think they smack Geno. The other Geno gets another pick, because I think he gets another one. Keep that streak alive. Geno picking Geno. So yeah, could I say 30-15? Yep. There we go.
All right, I'm gonna say I haven't done a 30 piece in a minute, so I'm probably gonna say 35-18. 35-18. And I think it's one of those kind of situations where the Ravens are behind at halftime. I think the Ravens are down in half, but they kick it into gear in the second half and they just like go bonkers in the second half. I feel like that's the kind of game this is gonna be. Like the Ravens are still gonna be trying to feel them out and try to figure out what's working and what's not working, and then they'll make some adjustments and stuff, and then they'll be back to it. So
yeah, I only gave him 20 because of DK Metcalf.
Man, is he even doing anything this year?
I mean, he's got 405 yards. I mean, he's doing something, I guess.
Hey, man, he's still,
he's a big dude, man.
God, you can throw it up to him wherever he's standing at. He can make a play on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried, because I'm like, Marlon.
You got to respect it regardless.
I feel like Marlon's been in those situations where he's gotten caught off guard by some of these plays and stuff, and I can just feel like between him and Tyler Lockett, that could become an issue. I just think that he may get got one of those times in this game.
We saw what George Pickens did.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
we'll see.
All right. Well, We got the Ravens put up 30 points, so hopefully they get this dub. So, yeah, that's it. And that's the end for the show. We'll catch you guys next week, and hopefully Ravens get this dub and go 4 straight. So,
Sir.
all right, see y'all later. Peace.
See ya. Brandon Stevens for president.